PowerPoint. All right, so welcome. Today we'll be covering the financial aid process. Just as a heads up, yes, it could be very overwhelming just to hear all of these things. But something that we stress and tell every student and family is that we're with you along the entire process. You're not in this alone. You're not going to figure this out by yourself. We have a team of people who are going to be here to support you with this. And those people are here. So if they can introduce themselves, and then we'll get started.
Buenas tardes, ustedes ya me conocen, Tatiana Mahoney, la directora de apoyo familiar y comunitario. Y como saben, este proceso va a ser un poco difícil, pero no se preocupen porque siempre estamos aquí para apoyarlo y llevarlo de la mano paso a paso. Así que eso lo van a recibir en general, para que no se abrumen, no se preocupen. Vamos a tenerlo todo bien explicado paso a paso y hay un equipo bien grande. So I'm here for you if you need any help. I will also be taking your questions at the end, and just know that we're here for you.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Audrey Argandona. The kids call me Miss Audrey. I am the 11th grade counselor, and I'll be moving on with the 11th grade class to the senior year, and also helping out with the application process for both financial aid and college.
I'm Brett Shablock, as Audrey said. I'll go with it. The students call me Shablock. I'm going to be teaching the college and career class, senior capstone class for them in the fall, and we'll be walking through all of these different processes necessary for the college application process in our class with lots of support.
And my name is George Roach. I'm the current school counselor for the 12th grade, and I was 12th grade last year. And this stuff is like totally in my wheelhouse, so love it. Happy to chat.
And I'm Kenneth Tejeda, the Director of College and Career Readiness. I'm always here to help from 9th grade to 12th grade. I'm here to help with any questions you might have. You have siblings, any younger students, you have questions of the process before they get to this, I'm available for any questions. All right, so today, second. All right, topics we're covering today: college costs, sources of aid, award letters, how and when to apply for aid, and how is your financial aid determined. Okay, so you'll be hearing a lot of information today. We will share the slides with you just in case you have any questions. And at the end of this presentation, we will open up time for you to ask questions. So please just hold off to the end. We will probably cover the answer to your question, or if we don't, you will have time at the end.
Sorry. I'm just here trying to do a couple things at the same time, but I apologize. So right now we're just going over how much the college actually costs. Now this is for a 4-year private on-campus student. The tuition and fees are around a little over $3,500, and then of course room and board, books and supplies and transportation and other expenses are listed here. They are not included in the tuition. These are separate things that you should budget for when going on to a private school. The next cost we're looking at is for a bachelor's degree for a New York State student who is also living on campus. And this is for SUNY schools, 4-year SUNY schools. SUNYs are state universities of New York. As you can see, the tuition is a lot less compared to private schools, 4-year private schools. The breakdown of the cost for tuition and fees is, of course, like the tuition and any additional fees that you would have to pay, whether it's technology fees, maintenance fees, things like that. And then, of course, everything else is listed. And then the total budget would be around $25,000. It may be, please, I forgot to mention, please allocate for more. These are older numbers. So as you can see on the PowerPoint, these are reflecting, these numbers are reflective of 2017 and 2018. And now we are looking at the breakdown of costs for CUNY schools, which are city universities of New York. And these are 4-year degree programs. Of course, these are the totals for 2017 to 2018. And these are for, this is the cost for New York State residents. Then you'll see the breakdown, of course, of the tuition and additional fees, along with books and supplies, transportation, and personal expenses. Again, these are things that we like to include in the budget, and these are things that should be budgeted for, just so that way you're aware of like the actual number. So just keep that in mind.
Hello, everybody. I'm going to cover the types of financial aid and where they're coming from. The first is the Pell Grant that comes through our FAFSA process with the federal government. The EFC is the expected family contribution. That's the number that they're expecting you to contribute based on the information provided. I know that we've been collecting or talking about collecting taxes from the year 2020, which will be the ones they use to determine that for this group of rising seniors. The New York State TAP grant is the tuition assistance program set up by New York State. Again, it's an additional source of financial aid that is not paid back. It is a grant. Any of the grants are not paid back. The Excelsior Scholarship, it only covers tuition, and the way it works is the award will equal $5,500 minus any amount that was previously received through TAP, Pell, or other scholarships. The remainder of the tuition will be covered through a tuition credit. Now, this is only good for the SUNY or CUNY schools, which are the public schools in New York State. The SUNY is the state school system, and CUNY is the city school system. These are the eligibility requirements. You have to be a resident of New York State. You enroll in either a SUNY or a CUNY 2- or 4-year degree program. You take 30 credits per calendar year, and that includes any winter or summer terms. You must remain in good academic standing. And here's one to make sure you're thinking about. You must plan to live in New York following your graduation for the same amount of time that you participated in the program. Meaning if you attended a 4-year CUNY or SUNY school, you would be required to live in New York State for 4 years following your graduation. The adjusted gross income does not exceed $125,000 based on the 2020 tax returns. The Excelsior Scholarship. This is something that you can log into and set an alert for, but please don't do that till later. What will happen is students will first complete FAFSA and TAP, and then the application will continue. Once we know where those sit, we will then determine when the Excelsior Scholarship opens next spring for this group of rising seniors. It'll be one of the final things we do in terms of financial aid. Okay, federal work study. When we do our FAFSA process, one of the questions is, are you interested in work study? We will 100% of the time say yes to that. However, just simply saying yes does not mean it's a guarantee. And what happens is, let's say you receive a certain amount of money for work study on your financial aid package. What happens is that is not money directly put towards tuition or room and board. It must be applied there by the student by going to the bursar's office, because they are provided a paycheck for the work-study program. Additionally, just because you are granted work-study on the financial aid packages doesn't mean you have to take the job. So you'd have to account for that money not being there, or you may not be able to get the job. Those are just two things we have to keep in the back of our head as we consider and work towards the work-study program. These are the two types of loans, the subsidized and unsubsidized loans. Both of these loans would be in the student's name. They would be solely legally responsible for that. The first one, the subsidized, that is for undergraduate students only. It's based on the United States Department of Ed. They are going to pay the interest for that for you during the time you're in school. The unsubsidized loan is also a loan that ends up starting, you end up having to pay the interest immediately. You can pay as you go, or it will simply accrue until you start to pay after graduation. The subsidized will be determined by the university, as will the unsubsidized. They will be providing you the amount that they feel comfortable that are able to loan. And the final type of financial aid loan would be called a parent loan for undergraduate students. It's the Parent Plus loan. This we look at as the last step or the last option, because it is not necessary for every single student for this to happen. It is taken on a student by student basis based on the universities they're looking at. So it may be needed for one university, but not another that you're applying to. The time for payment plans, it can vary. And that's something that the parents can work on as they go through and pass the credit check and begin to apply for the loan.
I'm going to stop for a minute just to highlight that if you need interpretation, please press the interpretation button on the bottom to be able to receive translation in Spanish.
Queremos recalcar que si necesita traducción, por favor, mire el control del panel y está un globito de que dice Interpretation, y ahí puede seleccionar su idioma español para recibir traducción simultánea.
All right, so now we're going to show you what an award letter is and what it looks like. So an award letter is when you actually receive your financial aid after you've completed the entire process of submitting FAFSA, TAB, just all your information to the government to be able to receive aid from different schools. You're going to receive individual letters from each school that you're accepted to, okay? So one looks like this. This is an example of Geneseo, which is a SUNY, a state school, upstate New York. And here you'll see the costs, all right? That's the first thing you see. You'll see direct costs, which is what you're being billed for. So tuition and fees and housing and meals. You're gonna receive an actual bill for that from the school. And then on the right, you'll see indirect costs, which are things that the school doesn't bill you for, but you do need to account for. So books and supplies, your transportation to get to the school, and other additional costs like your deodorant, right? Your mini fridge for your dorm, things like that you might need living on campus. And then you'll see the total cost of all these things put together, which comes out to $24,368. And again, be mindful, this is from a few years ago now, so that cost would be a little bit more for Geneseo, not that big of a difference, but it is a little bit higher than that number. Then as you go down on that award letter, you're gonna see where it says grants and scholarships offered, okay? And here you'll see TAP, Pell, SCOG, SUNY tuition credit. This might look different for other schools. For private schools, for CUNY, you may not see something like a SUNY tuition credit. You may or may not see SCOG. It depends on the school as well. But here you see it all added up, all the grants and scholarships that you've received, which is $12,815. At this point, my recommendation is you take that number of the grant money you received and subtract that from the total of the direct costs. So you have an idea of what your balance is going to be after you subtract your grants and scholarships. And at that point, you'll know how, the amount of loans and debt that you might be taking on every year. So this would be roughly 21,000, roughly, the direct cost. So when you subtract the 12,000 from the 21,000, you're gonna have roughly around $9,000 still remaining. Okay. So then you'll see your offers for loans that's open to you. So as Mr. Schablak mentioned, you have the subsidized loan, which is $3,500, an unsubsidized loan, which is $2,000, and here is recommending a federal Perkins loan for $1,800. That Perkins loan, I believe, doesn't exist anymore. As I said, this is dated. That would probably end up being a parent loan. Okay. Now on the bottom, you'll see a federal work study, which is offered to you, $1,500. So that again, you can take into account. Then on the very bottom of it all, you'll see your EFC, the estimated family contribution. It has 0. So they're not expecting your family to contribute anything, but like I mentioned before, you would still have a balance of $8,000, $9,000 after your grants and scholarships. So that's when loans come in, okay? And if you only get offered $5,500 in loans for in your name, that means there's still roughly $3,000, $4,000 that's left that's not in your name. That would be in a parent loan, okay? So I know that's a lot of numbers. It could be a little confusing, but again, this is something that we walk you through. But even though it says 0 for estimated family contribution, it would still be expected that your parents would have to pay $3,000, $4,000 a year, okay? So these numbers can be a little deceiving, but that's why we're here to help you through this process.
Oh my gosh, now it's my turn. Okay, everybody, great. So now we're gonna figure out how to do all that stuff we just talked about. First you're gonna do is you're gonna request an FSA ID. So that's gonna be your federal student aid identification, and that's gonna be your sort of port key to the whole wide, beautiful world that is student financial aid. You're gonna create one come the fall in your beginning of your junior year. So you're going to get one for the student and then one for a parent or guardian. Student probably doesn't have one already, so that'll be new for them. The parent may have one already if they have an older sibling who has applied to school, or if there was if the parent was a student themselves, you would use the same FSA ID. So you're going to use your email, your social security number. You would use your telephone number. So very important to keep the consistent with your mobile numbers. That can get a bit confusing. But the consistency is key through all of this. Absolutely. It's going to be your FSA ID, you know, until your children apply to college, okay, so great. So yes, so like I said before, it's going to be used electronically. So that's going to be your way, your key, to sign in to pretty much all the financial aid throughout your entire collegiate career, graduate career, and then, like I said, as a parent or guardian of a future college student as well. All right, so you'll do so by filling out the FAFSA, which is the application itself for the student aid. But to fill out the application first, what you need to do is you need to create the FSA ID. And right here, oh, wait, just go back. There it is, beautiful. Okay, so right here is the students' information we're gonna get. So let's say it's that students and parents, possessive plural of the social security number. If you don't have a social security number, that's totally fine. We're gonna do it the old-fashioned way, and we're gonna bring ink and paper into it instead of doing it electronically. So it might take a little bit longer. So if you don't have a social security number and you just have like a tax ID, let us know sooner rather than later so we can get a head start on getting everything cooking as far as so we can, because all this stuff is going to be a time crunch. It's all going to be on a calendar and there's going to be due dates for everything. So on, move on, so forth. So then you can see W-2s, tax returns. So it would be the 2020 tax returns. So the ones that you just filed, the deadline was Monday on the 17th. So those ones that you have, you're going to need your federal form, your IT, your federal form, your 1040 and all the schedules. And then also the state, New York State form, the IT 201 as well. And all the subsequent forms that go along with that. So it could get a bit thick. It's about 30 pages if you're really hammering it home. And we're gonna fill out everything. They're gonna ask a lot of personal questions. You know, might get a little too close for comfort. You know, some things that we're not used to talking about: yearly income, you know, marital status, the month and year of said marital status. We're gonna need all that information. They're gonna ask for all of it, especially, you know, if for the FAFSA. So then on the other slide, this is so this is like kind of what this is kind of what it looks like. They do change it from time to time as far as like, you know, the graphic user interface goes. But here you go. So then this is what you're going to do. You're going to put in all your student information, you know, what school you're at, your social security number, and all that stuff's going to be auto-populated from creating your for your FSA ID. And you use that FSA ID username and password to then sign in for the username and password of your FAFSA. So then here you're going to put in all the schools that you've selected. So you can do up to 10 schools at a time. So you can submit FAFSA about a dozen times, you know, through corrections. And what you're going to do is you're going to individually list each school in groups, you know, one at a time in groups of 10. So preferably it would be in the, you know, the order in which you apply for schools. So then your CUNY schools, your SUNY schools, and then your Common App schools, which will then be your in-state private schools and out-of-state schools, both public and private on the Common App. So each school is going to have a unique code, which we have a list of that we'll share. It's a great, like 14,000 line, you know, like Excel file that we'll share. It's a lot of fun. And here we go. Some of the things on the FAFSA, just boom, again, student demographics. You can indicate your gender, which is you're going to use your gender assigned at birth for that. And it's also going to ask about the selective service program, which only males currently have to register for when you turn 18 via the draft. What else? And then again, 10 colleges, and then you're going to put your status. It's either going to be with parent, on campus, and they also have an off-campus option, but I probably wouldn't put that. I'd probably just do in campus, on campus, and with parent. And it's going to be, it's not so much, you know, it's going to be how you fill the form out, not just what you have to fill the form out as well. So, and then here you go, dependency status. Generally, if the parents claim you on the tax returns, or you get more than half of your yearly living stipends from another person, you know, be it another family member or so on and so forth. And then you'd be an independent student if you have any of those other things, but that probably wouldn't happen until graduate school. So next year, you're going to do, again, parent demographics, marital status, beautiful. So again, doesn't have an SSN, we'll enter all zeros and then fill it out from there. And then section 5, tax returns, like I said, 2020. And the IRS data retrieval tool is wonderful because this is a way we're going to sort of streamline everything. So then if you've already filed your taxes for the year 2020, by the time you're ready to fill out your FAFSA, what you can do is you can automatically use your FSA ID to then log into the IRS website and then transfer all your information from the taxes that you already filed, that the government already has, into the FAFSA itself, and it sort of streamlines the process. So the FSA ID is going to, like I said, it's the port key, and it's really going to bring together a bunch of different systems that are all going to sort of, you know, correlate with one another, cross-reference one another to really streamline this process. And it's very, very helpful. Great. So then here you go. This is just part of the tax return information. This, like I said, this image is a little dated, but still has all the same information. And then when you put your tax information on the IRS website, it has to match exactly how it is when you filed your taxes. So if there's, you know, if you live on 168th Street and street is STREET, or, you know, then put STREET. If it's just ST, then you just put ST. It's very, very specific as far as, like, you know, where the apartment number goes, if you even list it, so on and so forth. So it's quite it's a very fickle for sure. But like I said, we'll get you through it. And then here you go. You're going to sign with the FSA ID. So this is the way that your identity is going to be confirmed, your address is going to be confirmed, your contact information, your email and phone number are going to be confirmed. They're all going to link together to then have you be able to sign electronically, submit electronically, verify all the information that is going to come together to then send out to submit FAFSA. So then you're going to get the confirmation, which will, once you get your confirmation page, it'll pop up. Simultaneously, you'll get an email to the email that you listed on the FAFSA saying your FAFSA was successfully submitted, which is great. So then usually it takes 3 to 5 business days later for your FAFSA to successfully process, which means that then the schools that you listed on that FAFSA version now have a copy of your federal financial aid. So then we can go back in, make a FAFSA correction on the student aid report, delete those 10 schools, put the next 10 schools in, and then submit again, and so on and so forth, complete the process until each school has a copy of your federal student aid report. And then, of course, after that, here you go. Here's a picture of the signature page. So you just, you're going to click and click. It's going to be great. That's what that looks like. Fruitfulness, I love it. And then here is the options. So if you don't have a social security number, you're going to select the second option, which is print a signature page, where you'll print out an affidavit. Parents will sign and date that, and then we'll mail it in to, actually it's London, Kentucky, where they have the federal aid, the federal student aid offices there. And then they'll process it from there. I would suggest overnighting it, or at least confirming when you mail that in, just because I'd want to expedite that as quickly as possible, because it is going to take a little bit longer for it to process manually than it would be electronically. Great. And then here is the, how you'd sign. FSA ID, username, password. It's going to be your username, either your phone number or your email address, and then the unique password that you created. And then that's what it looks like when it's signed. Boom. Wonderful. Congratulations. Snaps all around. So there we go. That looks wonderful. And then, so then it's going to say, you can see 3 to 5 business days in the second bullet point there. And then also, what you're going to do is, then if you confirmed on your FAFSA that you were a New York State resident, it'll let you know that you're eligible for the tuition assistance program, which is the TAP program, which is the financial aid, but for the state level. So if you're a New York State resident attending any school within the state of New York, you then do the TAP application. So there's no TAP if you go out of state, but this TAP if you're a state resident going to a state school, public or private, and then that's going to populate automatically from using the FAFSA, and my colleague, my wonderful colleague Audrey, is gonna take us the rest of the way on this magic carpet ride.
Thanks, Georgie. All right, so for first-time applicants for TAP, which is the New York State's Tuition Assistance Program, you will be creating your username and a PIN. You're not going to do this now. You're going to wait until the next school year when you're a senior in order for us to start the process. You're going to start this process during your college and career classes with Mr. Shablock. I will also be there to help in attendance, so that way you have two people there helping out. But we're not going to start this until you're a senior. But also be aware that we're going to need state IDs from yourself and as well as parents. So if you can start submitting those state IDs as well for this process, that would be great. All right, so of course, this is the link for the Excelsior application. It's the Excelsior Scholarship, and that's what Mr. Shablock and Mr. Roach went over, the qualifications. You can go ahead and find information on there. But again, I would suggest waiting until your senior year to start receiving alerts. Mr. Shablock and I will go ahead and walk you through that process, because if you sign up now, you're going to get all the information for this, this graduating class, and you're graduating next year. And I don't want your phone and your email to start, getting an excess amount of information that you don't need. So again, we're going to wait until your senior year to sign up for alerts and any other information that you're going to need. All right. You're also going to watch out for your student aid report. It's called SAR. It will be available within 3 to 5 days. I believe once we've submitted the information, again, we're going to wait until the next school year to do all of this. I know there's a lot of information being thrown out to you, but again, you will have myself to work with, Mr. Shablock to work with, Mr. Tejeda, and then of course, Mr. Roach will be jumping in from time to time when he's available. So you have plenty of help, but again, next year. And then of course, communicating with the financial aid offices, so that way you can notify them of any circumstances that have changed. Thanks. And then when to apply. Anytime after October 1st when you're a senior. That's when we're going to be doing everything, which is why we're requesting the 2020 tax returns. All right, and this is something that you do every single year. So hold on to those FSA IDs. We're going to make sure you write them in your notes on your phone or put it somewhere that you can remember. But again, every year, every academic school year, you're going to need the tax returns from the year before. And because you're going to be reapplying every school year. And we're not going to begin the process until October 1st of your senior year.
All right. So we just processed a lot. There was a lot of information. And like I stressed at the beginning, we will walk you through this process. I know it seems very stressful, and it is, but you have experts here, okay? And that's what we're here for. But if you do have questions, this is the time. At the bottom, there's a Q&A button that you can click, and you can type in your question, and Ms. Tatiana Mahoney will read them out, and one of our experts will hopefully answer your question correctly. And if you have any questions, on the bottom, there's a Q&A button. Click there, you can type in your questions. There is no wrong question to ask. Looks like we did a great job, guys. There's no questions yet. Give it another minute. All right, seems like there's no questions. One last call for questions. If you don't have a question now, you have our, all right, we do have one.
La pregunta es, ¿por qué se aplica para 10 escuelas? Why do you apply for 10 schools?
Go ahead, George.
I'll take that one. So the FAFSA application has room to submit 10 schools at a time. Every submission, you can put up to 10. Why the US government picked that arbitrary number, I don't know. Why does the US government do anything? Not sure on that either. But what we do is we want to list all 10 because we want to cast the biggest net out there possible. We want to have the greatest amount of opportunities and selections for each and every student. So you can apply up to 6 schools on the CUNY application, and then up to 7 on the SUNY application, the state, and then also up to 20 on the common application. And those are the 3 main mediums that we use to do the application process. Depending on what schools you want to apply to, there are some other options, but we'll get there, if and when we need to. And we're going to do, the idea is we want to do all of those applications via fee waiver, because all these applications are going to cost at least like $50-$60 and up a school if you're to do it individually. But what we do, the school, and we try to work it out so we can apply to have the lowest cost accrued for everything. So that would be the fee waivers for SUNY, 7 schools, CUNY, 6 schools, and then up to 20 on the Common App. And we list 10 at a time because that's only as much as they'll let us do. And you have to put them in 1 at a time to then get to the 10. It would be great if they updated it to like, just do them all at once. But what do I know? Does that help? Am I helping? That's
Yes,
why we do
thank
10.
you, George.
The next question is, I'm not good with the technology. Would you help me with the entire application from top to bottom if I need it?
Yeah, so we will be working one-on-one with students as well as parents to complete the entire application, both for college and financial aid. And you have 4 people here that are experts on it. So we're more than happy to help out with that. We're just requesting that tax forms be submitted before the start of the new school year. And then of course, IDs for the family. So mom, dad, whoever is claiming the student as well.
Both great questions. Any other questions? All right, if you do end up having any other questions, you can please email myself, Mr. Shablock, Ms. Audrey, Mr. Roach, Tatiana, whoever you're most in communication with, please reach out to them. And if one of them don't know the answer, they'll reach out to one of us and figure it out. We always figure it out. Again, we're here to help you with this. We will be sharing this information out. We'll post the slides on our website. We can email them to you as well if you need it. But thank you for attending. We really appreciate it. If you know that someone wasn't able to attend, just reach out to us and we could share this information with them. And have a good night. Thank you, everyone.
I would also like to add that I have sent the presentations and you can look for them in your email. The presentation will take a little bit of time to be posted on our site, but both presentations are now available on your email inbox. And again, you have my email address, so you can send me your questions. I know that many times the questions come later. And just a reminder that Audrey is taking right now the 2020 1040 and the IT 201, I believe, forms, and you can bring them to her Tuesdays and Thursdays, and she is available in the building, or you can email them directly to her so that you can start the process. And again, these are the 2020 tax forms.
Yeah, we're gonna need all the pages of the 2020 tax forms. It just, unfortunately, that's just the application process is going to be very detailed and ask for a lot of information.
And also with the 1040 and the IT 201, you want to make sure you have your W-2. They're going to want the W-2. So it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. You know, W-2, 1099 if you're an independent contractor. Requisite forms, man. I love it.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a good night. And again, if you have any questions that come up later, please reach out to us. We're here to help. And it's going to be a great process. And we're going to have amazing stories to tell next year. Have a good night.